Welcome, Ben, to the LogiPharma podcast. How exciting.
Thank you very much.
And the big announcement is that you have been, everyone probably knows because you've been working with them all across the year, that you are the Director of LogiPharma for the year. How exciting.
Yeah,
Big
very
job.
exciting. Yeah, it's amazing. It's just, mostly for me, it's just in my role, it's about the connections and it's about the
Yeah.
community. And I guess sort of what I've sort of picked up very, very quickly is just how much the community loves this event and how engaged they are. And honestly, that makes my job a breeze. You pick up the phone, this digital face phone. People want to talk to you, and they're
Yeah.
excited to talk to you. They're excited to kind of shape the direction of where this industry's going, where the job function's going. When an event, it doesn't really matter, to be honest, how big the event is. When people care about it, it's great. I love it. I'm happy to chat to anyone, anytime.
Yeah, they just seem to absolutely love this one. I mean, even
Yeah.
internally, we're in how many meetings per week about LogiPharma? Or it feels like I'm constantly talking about LogiPharma,
Yeah.
so I can't imagine how busy you must be. Where you're doing I do the fun fluffy stuff on the side, but you're in the kind of nitty gritty bare bones of it.
Yeah, there's more. There's definitely more meetings. Meetings about announcing meetings. No, it's great. I mean, and it's like I joke, but it shows like kind of how seriously the team takes this. Like the industry takes this event very seriously, and so do we. Like
100%.
you want these events to be where kind of industry comes together and sort of it sets their whole annual strategy, and we take it very, very seriously. The amount of meetings reflects that. I'd always love to have less meetings. I think everyone would, but it's never really wasted meetings. It's always something. We're always thinking very strategically about the event and just how do we make it a better on-site experience for people, better content, better engagement for our sponsors, for our attendees. We just kind of don't leave any stone unturned, really, which is really nice, to be honest.
Absolutely. I guess kind of great place to start then is kind of about Ben as the human away from Ben in the middle of LogiPharma. I feel like that's probably how everyone knows it. It'd be great to know a bit more about you, both the kind of career side, but I guess the more personal side, because that's a bit that makes all of this.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, well, starting point, you can probably tell from the accent. I'm not a native British person. I'm a British citizen, literally, and I guess subject as an Australian. I guess I'm a British subject. So I was born in Australia. Father was British. So I've been a sort of a British dual national ever since I was a child. Have lived in the UK now for well, I moved over when it was the London Olympics. So
what a year to move! That was the peak year.
It was awesome. It
That
was
was
a
peak year to be a Brit.
year. Great year. I was a Brit that year. It was fantastic. So it was 2012. So I've been here since then, and definitely settled. The accent sort of no sign of disappearing, and I've been in events, for sort of as long as that. To be very, very transparent, fell into the industry really by accident. It wasn't something that was on my radar. Fell into it. I've never looked back. I love it. I absolutely love going to events and sort of just bringing people together, networking, seeing things come to life. But yeah, I mean, outside of work, I'm sort of a very, very outdoorsy person. I tend to get a bit restless if I'm indoors for too long. Quite lucky to live near the ocean. Spend a lot of time in the water, at the beach, sort of going on long walks sort of around the coastline here and in the woods. I don't really like to stay still for too long, and I get outdoors as much as I can, really.
Probably fits for someone who works in events that you don't like to kind of stand still, because when you're on site at these things, you're never standing still doing the same thing.
No, you know what? I've actually probably never put two and two together with that, but I think you're exactly right.
Not to psychoanalyze you, Ben, but maybe that's got something to do
no,
with it.
I think you're right. I get restless very, very quickly. I do. I just tend to get, if I'm just sort of sat there, I tend to get a bit fidgety after a while and just think, I need to move.
Where should we go now? Yeah.
And it's events. It's like that. It's just, this is happening, that's happening. Oh, I've got to, especially from the organiser's perspective. If you're a delegate, it's busy enough, but you can at least sort of sit there and switch off for a while. Yeah. I might switch off for 5 minutes when I'm sort of in the middle of watching a session, and then it's like, oh no, this needs to be happening in 10 minutes time. Radio that in. But actually, when you do that, make sure that you've remembered for this afternoon session, this needs to happen. And someone's here I need to say hello to. Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I always think about when you're on site at something, you just get like, after the long day where your brain's been here, there and everywhere, you get this like 10 minutes pre going to like a dinner as well, where you just kind of then sit and flop on a hotel room that you spend 10 minutes just to go, ooh, I don't feel exactly human now. Do you feel like that always hits you? There's this 10-minute changeover.
Yes, but I'm not usually. I usually struggle to get over it in 10 minutes. I think it's really
Oh,
interesting. I mean, for people that don't work in events, it is just, they're very. None of this is a complaint either. I genuinely love it,
no,
but
this
it's
is
very,
general
very long
known.
days, very, very long days, and it is just 0 to 100 from the moment you
Hmm.
start through to the moment you finish, and there is really no respite from it. You're just on, and the
All the
kind of sort
time.
of the come down at the end of it when you sort of do stop and put your feet up is just, yeah, it's incredible. But it's great. I mean, I'm sure there's other industries that are even busier. I would not like to be a
No,
nurse on ER. Imagine that makes
no, we've got it
what
pretty
we
good
do
in that
look.
sense.
Yeah, I'll take what we do over that. But yeah, it's an incredible rush, and on an event of this scale, it's just a different magnitude as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess if you could, because you obviously you chat with speakers and all the industry professionals throughout the year, kind of, if one of them were to kind of describe you or introduce you at one of our networking drinks receptions, how do you think that they would go about doing that? Do you think that you've made kind of that impression there that they could describe you in one line?
I'd hope people say that I'm excitable and I'm curious.
Yeah.
Like I'd just try and approach everything with a pretty positive mindset. Having worked on a wide range of events over my career, I've worked on everything from the most incredible gas pipeline litigation I worked on 13 years ago about
So
long-term gas
specific.
supply contracts, litigating them. I've worked, you name it. I've probably done the event
Hmm.
on it, and I know as a result, I know lots.
Hmm.
I know a little about lots of things. I don't think many people in events would, profess to be an
Yeah.
expert in their topic. I'm absolutely not. I understand all the concepts. I understand what people are trying
Mm.
to talk about. Um, but I have a curiosity about that. So
Yeah.
I love talking to people, and I'm generally just quite excitable. I just try to be just a kind of, events that can be stressful for speakers and
Mm.
delegates. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of pressure to be a speaker. I don't. There's a lot of pressure on the event team.
Mm.
My kind of philosophy has always been just don't add to that stress. Just try and be like just a kind of a calming, friendly face that just doesn't take it, all too seriously. It's the events industry, right? You should be having fun. Don't stress about it too much. But yeah, I'd hope speakers just and attendees just see me as someone that's just excited, excitable, and curious. I genuinely love learning about what people do. I'll happily talk to them for hours about what's the latest that's happening in their industry, in their job, in their company. That's kind of me in a nutshell. I just like learning.
I mean, I think that's very much reflective of the LogiPharma audience as well. Is that they just want
Yeah,
to learn. That's such a kind of that's what you kind of realize over the years that they just love this event and love the
yeah,
topics. I guess
yeah,
when going back to kind of the start of the year, when kind of LogiPharma became like a possibility in your realm,
yeah.
how excited slash was it an excitement or was it kind of slightly surprising or kind of how do you begin a task like digging into the LogiPharma community?
Really exciting.
Yeah.
And look, speak very honestly. It will be the largest in terms of, I guess, attendance and exhibition
Mm.
size, largest conference that I've worked on. And that in and of itself is, really exciting. I've worked on an incredible wide range of conferences globally, industries. The thing is with conferences, they all follow the same core kind of process. So there's nothing about LogiPharma that is fundamentally different about my event about litigating long-term gas supply contracts. The scale is infinitely different, but the core heart of what it is no different, and it's community engagement. Any conference, it's about community engagement. What matters to the people who attend this event? What do they want to learn about? What is going to look like a successful 3 day? If they walk away from that conference, after 3 days, what have they taken away? If they walk away from that conference and they say, I didn't really learn anything for the last three
Yeah.
days, that's an absolute disaster on our part. And the only way that that should really happen is if we've not done our work beforehand. And so it's
Mm.
just, the first thing I did, yeah, really excited to take on, is just start speaking to people.
Yeah.
Who are the advisory board for this event? And we have a fantastic advisory board who were
Mm.
incredibly helpful for me. Straight off the bat, they were some of the first people that I was on the phone to. Past speakers, past attendees, our sort of most trusted sponsors. Just ask questions. What matters to you right now? What's really important? What's keeping you up at night? What are you excited about? What are the opportunities in this space? Great, great, great. You speak to sort of north of 100 people. Pretty quickly, you get a map of what what really matters to this audience, and then you then start to shape that into, what will be the content for it was next year's conference at the time, for this year's conference now. What are the key things that we have to address? What are the real big talking points that we want someone, to walk away after those 3 days and go, wow, when I go back to my office next week, into my site, these are the 5 things. This is the one thing that I'm just going to instantly just flag with my team. That's really it, really. Just community engagement. It's never more complicated than that. Pick up the phone. No, I say the phone these days. It's this. It's pick up the Teams connection. Talk to people.
100%. Yeah, I guess is it because I was thinking about LogiPharma and try to put myself in a delegate's shoes, and I guess you want to hit the perfect balance of you want them to walk away feeling kind of inspired but still challenged but also reassured and kind of their day to day. Would you kind of say that that's the kind of key where you should be able to kind of see yourself in the other attendees and have the same challenges but also have solutions to offer, and all kind of that nice combination of the 3 of inspiration, challenged, reassured, I guess. Am I wrong? Maybe.
No, you're right. And I think it's always interesting with these events. And I mean, I know this from attending conferences for things that I'm interested in. You're always very surprised that everyone has the same issues. It's very rare that someone says, I don't resonate with anything that's being said here, or, wow, I'm just really, really far ahead of my peers. Maybe I'm a bit more advanced than my peers, or I'm a bit behind, but I'm just not speaking the same language. Sure, there might be a few, unicorn companies that are kind of just outside the realm and are doing things very different. But fundamentally, we all face the same problems. And what's really interesting in a lot of industries, but I really genuinely think in the pharmaceutical industry, I've really noticed with this LogiPharma, communal challenges that people want to solve together. It's a very, and I think a lot of it comes back to sort of, the very basic starting point of pharmaceuticals is making a difference in people's lives, saving lives, right? Pharmaceuticals exist to
save people,
to help people, to heal people. And I'm always really, really impressed speaking to people who, maybe aren't at the front lines of the drug development or the drug creation, more in sort of, the operations roles, supply chain roles, really, really take that responsibility very seriously. That they know that sort of, the drugs being shipped on time, being shipped in a safe manner, can potentially save a life. And that's not sort of hyperbole. That's just the truth. These are life-saving drugs. And so I think everyone has a kind of a shared, a real shared responsibility as a whole industry, not just your individual companies, but really as a whole industry, that they want to get this right. And so it translates really well at an event like LogiPharma because, a lot of the problems are shared. You talk about what freight modes we're using, how we're getting end-to-end visualization of supply chains, through to niche issues like serialization and sort of cold chain monitoring. Everyone's in the same boat and they all want the same outcome. If you look at sort of your big pharma, the 2 big pharmas, they don't want the other one to fail by, supply chain logistics networks breaking down, because that would ultimately hinder them. You have obviously, competitive differences in terms of sort of pricing and product, but in terms of the operations, the supply chain logistics side, there are obviously competitive advantages, but they're all on the same page. So there's a very communal way of solving these problems, which I love about this community.
Yeah, and I suppose they've all kind of, whenever I've chatted to people for this podcast, it's always with the kind of, they've had the same ups and downs. They've all had to go through COVID and be adaptable and kind of have that same shared goal. And it feels like since COVID, we've had endless ups and downs with so many different kind of, so they've been able to kind of take all that on. I guess then looking at 2026, you've done all the kind of heavy work. It's in about a month and a half, which is mad because it's really come around. It's kind of worrying me slightly that it's so close. But I guess and kind of to sum it up, what's the kind of 2026 headline when you think of LogiPharma? What's the key stories that you're hoping to kind of pull out of it?
Yeah, I'd say the two big themes, and neither of these will really surprise people. A supply chain resilience and digital transformation, but more specifically artificial intelligence. Like it's the word on everyone's lips.
It's the thing everyone wants to talk about.
I'm not saying anything that people aren't aware of.
No.
But I think that I think it's that use of AI to drive supply chain resilience. I think we're really in a really interesting time frame. You mentioned COVID was only, what was that,
Like
5 years ago?
6 years ago now,
Yeah,
2026.
so
Mad.
relatively recent, and that was a phenomenal shock to
It's
markets.
insane.
But then you look since then, we've had, the war in Ukraine, wars in the Middle East, the tariffs coming from the US,
Yeah,
global supply.
Canal.
It's
It's my
every
favorite
year
one.
there's been just there's just been a major disruption every single year, and a lot of
Yeah,
those disruptions are still ongoing. There's
yeah.
still an incredible amount of uncertainty around what might happen with tariffs next. It's a really fluid situation, and so I think the next disruption is inevitable, and it's clear
100%.
that we are having sort of major disruptions much more frequently. Climate change is having an impact on sort of global shipping routes, and so it's that end-to-end supply chain resilience, I think, is the really big driving factor for people at the moment. Is just how do we build resilience into our supply chain so that when the next disruption inevitably happens, it doesn't matter what it is, we've built the resilience in. And look, yeah, that's happening through AI is a huge driver in that. And so many of the sessions at LogiPharma this year will be looking at practical ways that that's being done. We're at this probably really interesting inflection point, I guess, in history of just people talk about AI being like another industrial revolution. We're definitely still very, very early on in that curve, and a lot of talk around AI still is theory, and there will be talks at LogiPharma about AI theory. But we are now starting to see that inflection point where AI has been around for a while. A lot of the projects that were kicked off 2, 3, 4 years ago are now starting to bear fruit. We're starting to see results, and there will be a lot of talks at LogiPharma around those practical applications. People who can say, from the very basics, we have an interactive working group purely around the use of ChatGPT. What kind of prompts can you use? What are some of the tips and tricks? And that's just a very sort of basic kind of working group around a tool that's available to all of us, through to really dedicated case studies around practical use of AI. Actual, real life results, tangible projects that have been put in place from some sort of major pharma producers, some small and medium producers as well. But I'd say it's that really interesting tipping point. I'm sure when we sort of look at LogiPharma 2036 in 10 years, there'll be some really interesting, case studies by that point. We'll have gone past, no one will talk about theory anymore. I'm sure we'll be talking about, I don't know, robotic delivery
We won't be
drivers.
there. There'll
I'm
be
sure
robots there.
we won't
It'll be
be there.
fine. It'll be fine.
I'll be a robot. I'll be a sentient robot.
Yeah, someone will be doing all the interviews. It won't be me. It'll be a robot.
That'd be fantastic. We'll all
That'd
be
be
on.
so great.
We'll have our feet kicked up on a beach somewhere,
Oh,
watching
we
LogiPharma
could
on
just
a
watch them
little
up.
screen,
Yeah, yeah.
remote controlling the
Oh,
robot.
that would be so good.
That would be that would be
Yeah,
interesting.
just
But
yeah.
I'd say that's those are sort of the real kind of big themes at the moment. We're living in an uncertain world. And yeah, how do your supply chain respond? How do you sort of pre-build that resilience so when the next disruption happens, you're covered?
100%. I mean, that's the beauty of it. I've been this will be my third LogiPharma. I remember the first one when we were there kind of chatting to people, and everyone wanted to talk about AI, but when I deeped it and kind of tried to get a bit more kind of in depth and with my questioning, no one really wanted to talk any further about it. They're just like, oh, this is so cool. We're definitely doing it, but I can't tell you how because we haven't really figured it out yet. So it's brilliant to kind of go year on year and see how far that's come along, kind of the technology, kind of even the behind the scenes and implementing it, all the data they need to have. It's really cool, especially then if they've got all these things to look forward to on the theory side of things, because I'm not convinced everyone really knows what it is what I've found from talking to them.
Lots of people don't, and it means lots of things to lots of different people. And as I say, so it's why there are a lot of sort of small working groups around this. There's boardrooms around sort of practical AI demystified, actual tangible case studies. As I say, that needle is shifting from, say, 5 years ago, 100% theory, 0% practical. 5 years from now, it'll be 100% practical, 0% theory. We're somewhere in that middle point now where we are starting to see the initial results. There's still a lot of uncertainty. By all means, no one has all the answers, but there are just shoots of, we've actually done this for 5 years now. It did work. Here's a practical example of something you could go into your sort of operations next week and do. And then here's some other things that we're sort of thinking might work, but we don't really know. So I say it's just a kind of a really interesting inflection point at the moment that I think as conference organisers, we can finally say to people, it's not just talking about it as a buzzword. You will see practical examples of how this is done. And also a lot of our sponsors, in the exhibition hall will be showing real life ways that they are using AI in their solutions, using it to sort of monitor supply chains for predictions. It's definitely reached that point now where this is happening in practice.
And I guess when you kind of, obviously AI is going to be a big thing, but when you look at the
Yeah.
kind of agenda, everyone can kind of go and look at the agenda now. It's all out, isn't it? So
Yeah.
But obviously you can't have favorites, but are there any kind of sessions that you're particularly excited about? Obviously you're excited about all of them. That's key.
I'm excited about every single one, of course.
Every single one. He's going to be gutted if he has to miss any of it. But if you could kind of talk us through any kind of standout things that you're particularly excited about on this year's agenda.
Yeah, well, the first one that I'm really excited about, it's nothing to do with logistics. It's nothing to do with pharma. It's one of our guest speakers, probably the main guest speaker that we have, Sir Tony Brenton.
Very excited
about this.
He
was the former British ambassador to Russia. Obviously speaking about sort of what does Putin want? Where are we going with this? What is the potential end game? Obviously, that has then a huge knock-on effect for global manufacturing, for global supply chain. We've seen him speak before at a conference, and it was sort of standing room only. Really, really intelligent guy, some really incredible opinions. Very, very strong speaker, and I know that will generate a lot of interest. I think one of the other sessions that I'm really excited about is the town hall panel that we're having around agentic AI. So obviously, agentic AI is really the kind of sub-AI buzzword kind of at the moment. Some really big name speakers from some major pharma manufacturers giving a keynote panel which is taking the shape of a town hall, so much more interactive if you think of a town hall that sort of typically politicians would do, leading us off on the morning of day one. I think that's going to be really interesting, just seeing how some of the leading pharma manufacturers are approaching agentic AI, what some of the sort of practical things that they're doing there are. Some other stuff that I think is really interesting is around is sort of the workforce of the future. I think that's something that tends to get lost a lot when we talk about this big AI revolution and it sort of being a big new age in history. What's the people impact? It's all great that we're bringing these tools in, but what does that mean for the skill sets of existing employees? How do people need to evolve? What does that mean for the next generation of talent that we're hiring? We talk about AI. It shouldn't be replacing people. It should be supporting people. And it's how do you manage that change? How do you sort of get the most out of your teams, and just ensure that we're sort of going in step, so that 10 years from now, there is a robot me, but he's stood next to me and working with me at LogiPharma. I'm not sat on a beach while he's doing my job.
It's best of friends.
Best of friends, yeah, I joke, but I think that's a huge part of the event is really, don't lose sight of the people side of this. Without people, there's a section in the agenda, without people you're nothing. And it's true. Your people are your organization. And so that's definitely a big focus for a lot of the content this year.
Yeah, I guess then from looking at kind of that agenda side of things to more like the actual people in the room, is that kind of just a logistical nightmare, try to kind of pin all these people down and kind of try to contact the right people to kind of obviously join us in Vienna?
Yes.
Yes. Long story short, that's hard.
Next question. No. Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that I think, I mentioned early on, sort of, as we were talking about just how well regarded this event is and how engaged the community is. That makes my life a lot easier. I can speak to some very, very senior people. As soon as I say LogiPharma, we've been around for, this will be obviously the 25th anniversary last year, a huge celebration. People know who we are. We've deservedly got a very good reputation. People know that we care a lot about the quality of the content. We only put the best speakers forward. We really care about our community, and we really care about putting together a good product. That makes my life a lot easier. Speaking to very senior people at top pharma producers, I don't have to convince them sort of who we are and what we do. But yeah, look, coordinating diaries, there's north of 220 speakers on the agenda, making sure it all fits. It is, it's a tough job. It's what I get paid for, but it's it works out. I mean, I think some of the I'm very proud and very privileged of some of the caliber of speakers that we have at the event. You know, some really big names, some really innovative people, some really forward-thinking companies. I mean, I spoke a lot sort of early on about, you know, the big themes about sort of supply chain resilience. And sort of how that is being driven by sort of, you know, AI and other digital technologies. You've got big keynotes from, you know, some very senior SVPs from the likes of Takeda, Novartis, talking about their stories about how they've, you know, built in resilience into their supply chains, but also a lot of academic angles. You know, we're always really proud to have, you know, academic speakers on board. We've got Cranfield School of Management, you know, really respected name in supply chain, giving a big keynote about digitally enabled resilience. A host of other universities speaking across the agenda. So, yeah, just honestly, really blessed to have such a wide range, a really diverse speaker faculty of some very very senior people.
100%. And then I guess on like a more personal, kind of the Ben the human side of things, kind of what is the most exciting thing about leading something like LogiPharma?
I mean, in terms of the event itself, I've never been to Vienna. I
Yeah.
consider myself
It's
a
lovely.
I consider myself a
Yeah.
relatively well-traveled person. For whatever reason,
Yeah.
I've never made it to Vienna. So, you know, I'll be adding a few days on. I'm just really
Nice.
excited. I just when I visit a new city, I just put my walking shoes on and that's it. I'm out the
Lovely.
door and I just go, kind of
100%.
explore alleys and see what's on and you know, find some interesting cafes, restaurants, bars, and then just see what's happening in that city. So on a, you know, really personal note, I'm just very excited to see Vienna. I've heard good things about it.
100%.
Um, and I think, look, in terms of the team, look, it's a really, I say it's been around for 25 years now. The team that's on it is incredibly well established. You know, for me to come into it as a, I'm not new to the company WBR. I've been with WBR for a good 8 years now, but new to LogiPharma. Just that breadth of knowledge that already exists within the team, that just a really, you know, it's a really well-oiled machine. You know, people really care about the quality of this conference, the quality of the work that we put on. It's a real honor to be part of that group. You know, from a personal level, I just love, you know, again, sort of bring it back to working in events. There's a real thrill and a camaraderie that comes. I mean, you'll know it from
100%.
being on site when you have
Mm-hmm.
those long days, those 6 a.m. starts, and it's just go the
Mm-hmm.
whole time. That you have a real sense of camaraderie that, to be completely honest, is not that far off at times being in like a sporting team where you're all like kind
100%.
of just pulling for that same goal, kind of backs against it. You get there in the end, and there's a really nice camaraderie that comes with that, and I've always loved that about events. It's just a really nice experience to be on site and have that kind of, you know, shared communal experience. It's as far away from sort of a 9 to 5 in an office as you can imagine. So I think that from a personal level, Vienna and just being part of that team on site, you know, bringing this, you know, beast of an event to life, something that people enjoy. It's a real privilege.
Absolutely. I mean, you're completely spot on. I feel like that's the best way to make connections with people at the same company. If you're in an events team, actually being there on site,
Yeah,
you suddenly have got all these kind of connections because you've all been kind of in there together. And I mean, this is kind of behind the scenes what goes on, but we'll be all be in one group chat, and it seems to constantly something
yeah.
is wrong. So by the end of the day, when everything's
Something
gone,
is always wrong.
you always feel really stressed that suddenly someone like there's a
Yeah.
door open somewhere and kind of like random like somewhere miles
Turn the
away
aircon down
someone
or
needs to turn the aircon down. It's when you
yeah,
get to the end of the day and you've all kind of done it and everything's gone off without a
yeah,
hitch. It is such a nice feeling to kind of sit down, have dinner together, we'll all go out and kind of just actually enjoy having done it and have it being a success. I guess
100%.
our last one, I wanted to kind of see before we do this, the 2026 edition, if we record this again, we'll say we'll record again in February next year. What would you want to have done to make LogiPharma 2026 a success? When we catch up next year, could you go, oh yeah, that was great because we achieved X, Y, and Z?
Yeah, sure. I think, I mean, again, this comes back to what I said earlier. My starting point with events always has to be someone walks away having made a connection or learned something that they would not have done so if they didn't attend the event. That's just, for me, that is just 101 events. There is no point putting events on unless people are changed as a result of having attended that event. It doesn't need to be a life change. It just
Yeah.
needs to be, and often I'm happy if it's just one thing. If someone walks away with one light bulb moment, they then go back into their office the following Monday and they say, actually, wow, if I just do this one thing, it's going to change my team.
Changed my
It's going to
life.
increase productivity. So it's just there has to be something that they've walked away from being different for them. What
Mm-hmm.
that is, look, I would never pretend to know what that might be. It might be something that makes their processes more productive. It could be some one thing that stuck with me. I went to just a very general event about organizations and networking once. Someone said, just change your meeting window when you send like an Outlook from 30 minutes to 25 minutes. Really simple, but I walked back into the office. I don't think just that one little takeaway would have justified going to sort of a 2-day conference, but it's just those little things. And you think, I went back in on Monday and I did, and it did actually make a big difference. So it's finding those kind of things, but obviously at a scale that is transformative. Look, I think, where I sort of see in LogiPharma going, this needs to be, the Davos or the Glastonbury of its industry, where it is just, it's where things happen. It is just the event that everyone is at every year. It's penciled into your calendar for the next 10 years because it's just where things happen. It's where deals are made. It's where you learn. It's where industry basically comes together and sets their sort of manifesto, as it were, for the year. But it is just that. It is just that definitive kind of process from industry. So that's what and that's probably a longer term view, sort of looking not just this next February, but February 2030 or 31, 5 years from now. That's where I think this should be. But I think just a successful event, people walk away saying, great, I learned the following things about AI that I can actually put in practice. I've got a better idea how to meet the next, inevitable disruption, and I made a new friend that I'm still in touch with a year later.
Quite nice.
Yeah.
Very wholesome. Yeah, I mean, I think you've hit the nail on the head. Before we kind of wrap up, is there anything else that you'd like to tell the audience before we go? Any kind of final little teasers before you kind of see them all live in Vienna in a month and a half?
Yeah, just to say that, look, we've put a lot of effort into this year's agenda. We've made a really big effort to kind of revamp it. It's obviously, this is never something that we kind of sit on our laurels. I think we've put a really big effort this year into really expanding the content on day 3. There's basically a full day of content across a supply chain stream, across the logistics stream, introducing on day 3 the LogiPharma Academy, which is a lot about sort of the building blocks for career advancement. I mentioned earlier the ChatGPT working group that will be part of the LogiPharma Academy. So just really wanting to just really put that value in for people. Look, if they're going to take this time out of the office, out of their sort of sites, for 3 days, it has to be worth their while. We have to put the content on that really makes it worth their time to commit to us, because we certainly don't take people's time for granted. So I'd really just encourage people to really dive into the agenda. Don't just assume it's more of the same old. Really take your time to review it through, assess which sessions you would like to attend. Really, from that sort of opening of morning day 1 all the way through to the close of day 3, there will be something there for you.
Amazing. Will you be, this last to put you on the spot, will you be on the LogiPharma run 5K on day 2? I think it is. I'll be there.
I've always maintained this. I swim. I love swimming. Just I've never understood running, the impact on joints. I've always maintained running is bad for you.
No,
there's a yoga class at the same time. I will do yoga. I like yoga.
If you
I'm
yoga
big on
class,
low impact.
Yeah. If you yoga class, I'll do the run. I'm one of those psychos that does marathons, so we have to agree to disagree. But Ben, thank you so much. Honestly, it's been great to kind of deep dive into kind of how the year's been, and I'm sure everyone's so excited to kind of see what you've cooked up for this year.
Brilliant. Well, I look forward to seeing everyone there.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.